Liberia's president just issued orders to ban this raw materials export to Europe. In a surprising move that has sent shockwaves through the global economy, Liberia's president has issued a sweeping order to ban the export of a key raw material to Europe. This unprecedented decision has sparked a heated debate about the country's economic direction and its broader implications for international trade. Liberia, a nation rich in natural resources, has long relied on the export of raw materials to fuel its economy. However, the president's recent ban on the export of this particular raw material has raised concerns about the potential economic fallout for the country's citizens. The raw material at the center of this controversy is a crucial component in a wide range of industries, including electronics, construction, and manufacturing. Its export to European markets has played a significant role in Liberia's economy, generating substantial revenue and providing employment opportunities. The president has justified the ban, citing concerns about the environmental and social impact of the raw materials extraction and processing. Environmentalists have raised alarms about the industry's contributions to deforestation and air pollution, while human rights groups have documented instances of labor exploitation and human rights abuses in the supply chain. The decision to ban exports to Europe has also been met with mixed reactions from industry experts. Some argue that the ban could lead to a surge in illegal exports and undermine efforts to regulate the industry. Others believe that the move could encourage domestic processing and manufacturing, potentially creating new jobs and diversifying Liberia's economy. The global implications of the ban are still unfolding. European companies that rely on Liberian imports are scrambling to find alternative sources, which could lead to price increases and disruptions in supply chains. The ban could also have a ripple effect on other raw material exporters in the region. As the dust settles on this momentous decision, Liberia's president faces a challenging task of navigating the economic, environmental, and social repercussions of the ban. The decision has sparked a global debate about the ethical sourcing and sustainable production of raw materials, setting a precedent that could have far-reaching consequences for the future of international trade. The purpose of the video is to inform viewers about the reasons behind Liberian president's decision to ban the export of a key raw material to Europe and the potential implications of this decision on the country's economy, the environment, and the global trade landscape. The video will also explore the potential future scenarios and how the ban might evolve. The specific raw material that is being banned from export to Europe by Liberia's president is not specified. However, here are some examples of raw materials that Liberia is known to export and that could potentially be affected by such a ban. Iron ore. Liberia is one of the world's leading exporters of iron ore, which is a crucial ingredient in steel production. A ban on iron ore exports to Europe could have significant consequences for Liberia's economy and global steel supply chains. Rubber. Liberia is a major exporter of rubber, which is used in a wide range of products, including tires, belts, and gloves. A ban on rubber exports to Europe could disrupt global supply chains and raise prices for consumers. Diamonds. Liberia produces a small but significant amount of diamonds, which are a valuable commodity. A ban on diamond exports to Europe could impact Liberia's government revenue and the livelihood of artisanal miners. The specific raw material affected by the ban would depend on the president's reasons for imposing it in the targeted industries. The video would discuss the potential economic, environmental, and social implications of such a ban depending on the raw material in question. Liberia's president has cited several reasons for issuing the ban on the export of a key raw material to Europe, including environmental concerns. The president has expressed concerns about the environmental impact of the raw materials extraction and processing, particularly its contribution to deforestation and air pollution. The ban is seen as an attempt to curb these environmental harms and promote sustainable practices in the industry. Social justice considerations. The president has also highlighted the social justice issues associated with the raw materials supply chain, including labor exploitation, child labor, and human rights abuses. The ban aims to address these concerns and promote ethical sourcing practices. Economic diversification strategy. The president has also indicated that the ban is part of a broader strategy to diversify Liberia's economy and move away from over-reliance on raw material exports. The goal is to create a more resilient and sustainable economy that is less susceptible to fluctuations in global commodity prices. Trade leverage with European partners. Some analysts have suggested that the ban could also be seen as a form of trade leverage, aimed at pressuring European companies and governments to take stronger action to address the environmental and social issues associated with the raw materials production. The president's decision to ban the export of a key raw material to Europe is a significant one with far-reaching implications. It raises important questions about the balance between economic development, environmental protection, and social justice in the global trade of natural resources. The video will explore these issues and provide insights into the potential consequences of the ban for Liberia, Europe, and the world. Liberia's president banning the export of a key raw material to Europe could have significant economic repercussions for the country and its citizens. Loss of revenue. Liberia relies heavily on the export of raw materials, such as iron ore, rubber, and diamonds, to generate revenue. A ban on the export of a key raw material could lead to a significant loss of revenue for the government and private companies. This could have negative consequences for Liberia's ability to fund public services, invest in infrastructure, and provide social safety nets for its citizens. Job losses. The raw material industry is a major employer in Liberia, providing jobs for thousands of people. A ban on exports could lead to job losses in the mining, processing, and logistics sectors. This could increase unemployment and poverty rates, particularly in rural areas where the raw material industry is concentrated. Economic disruption. The ban could disrupt Liberia's economy by disrupting supply chains and raising prices on goods and services. This could make it more difficult for businesses to operate and could lead to increased inflation. Impact on exports to other markets. The ban could also have a negative impact on Liberia's ability to export raw materials to other markets, as European buyers may be reluctant to do business with a country that has a history of banning exports. This could further limit Liberia's export options and damage its reputation as a reliable trading partner. Potential for illegal exports. The ban could lead to an increase in illegal exports of the raw material, as some producers may try to evade the ban and continue selling to European markets. This could exacerbate environmental and social problems associated with the industry and undermine the government's efforts to promote responsible sourcing. Despite these challenges, the ban could also have some positive economic impacts for Liberia. Forced industry reforms. The ban could create an incentive for the raw material industry to reform its practices in order to meet the environmental and social standards required to export to Europe. This could lead to improvements in environmental protection, labor practices, and human rights. Investment in domestic processing. The ban could encourage investment in domestic processing and manufacturing of the raw material. This could create new jobs and diversify Liberia's economy, making it less reliant on raw material exports. Strengthening of trade agreements. The ban could also strengthen Liberia's trade agreements with European partners, as they may be more willing to negotiate better terms with a country that is taking steps to address environmental and social concerns. In conclusion, Liberia's president's decision to ban the export of a key raw material to Europe is a complex one with both potential risks and rewards. The video will explore these in more detail and provide insights into how the ban could impact Liberia's economy, environment, and social welfare. Liberia's president's decision to ban the export of a key raw material to Europe could have significant environmental and social implications for the raw material supply chain. Environmental implications. Reduced deforestation. The ban could lead to a reduction in deforestation, as mining and processing operations would be forced to minimize their environmental impact in order to meet European export standards. This could protect forests and biodiversity in Liberia. Improved air quality. The ban could also lead to improved air quality, as mining and processing operations would be required to implement stricter emission controls. This would benefit communities near mining sites and reduce the risk of respiratory illnesses. Promote sustainable practices. The ban could incentivize the adoption of sustainable practices in the raw material industry, such as using renewable energy sources, minimizing waste, and conserving water resources. This could make the industry more environmentally friendly and reduce its long-term environmental impact. Social implications. Reduced labor exploitation. The ban could lead to a reduction in labor exploitation, such as child labor and forced labor, as companies would be forced to comply with European labor standards. This would protect the rights of workers and improve their working conditions. Improved human rights. The ban could also lead to improved human rights practices, as companies would be required to respect human rights and avoid engaging in practices such as bribery and corruption. This would create a more equitable and just supply chain. Promote ethical sourcing. The ban could incentivize the adoption of ethical sourcing practices, such as paying fair wages, providing safe working conditions, and respecting the rights of indigenous communities. This would ensure that the raw material is sourced in a socially responsible manner. Despite these potential benefits, the ban could also have some negative environmental and social impacts. Increased illegal exploitation. The ban could lead to an increase in illegal exploitation of natural resources, as some producers may try to circumvent the ban and continue operating in an unsustainable and unethical manner. This could worsen environmental damage and exacerbate labor and human rights abuses. Limited access to resources. The ban could restrict access to raw materials for some industries, potentially leading to shortages and higher prices. This could impact businesses and consumers, particularly those in developing countries. Uncertainty for workers. The ban could create uncertainty for workers in the raw material industry, as they may lose their jobs or face reduced wages due to the disruptions caused by the ban. This could exacerbate poverty and social inequality in Liberia. Liberia's president's decision to ban the export of a key raw material to Europe has both potential environmental and social benefits and drawbacks. The video will explore these in more detail and provide insights into how the ban could impact the raw material supply chain and the communities it affects. The ban on the export of a key raw material to Europe could have significant international trade implications and ripple effects across global markets. Impact on European industry and consumers. Supply chain disruptions. The ban could lead to disruptions in the supply chains of European industries that rely on Liberian raw materials. This could lead to shortages, price increases, and production delays. Higher consumer prices. Consumers in Europe may face higher prices for products that contain Liberian raw materials. This could affect a wide range of goods, such as electronics, construction materials, and consumer goods. Pressure on European alternatives. European companies may seek alternative sources of raw materials to replace Liberian imports. This could create opportunities for other countries to export their raw materials to Europe, but it could also lead to increased competition and higher prices for buyers. Impact on other raw material exporters. Competition for new markets. The ban could open up new export opportunities for other raw material exporters who can meet European standards. This could create competition for Liberia's market share and affect the global price of raw materials. Pressure for reforms. The ban could put pressure on other raw material exporters to improve their environmental and social practices. This could lead to a broader movement towards more responsible sourcing of raw materials. Renegotiation of trade agreements. The ban could prompt European countries to renegotiate trade agreements with other raw material suppliers to ensure that they meet European standards. This could have implications for the terms of trade and the flow of goods between countries. Impact on global trade regulations. Call for stronger environmental and social standards. The ban could raise calls for stronger environmental and social standards in the global trade of raw materials. This could lead to the development of new regulations or the strengthening of existing ones. Increased scrutiny of supply chains. The ban could lead to increased scrutiny of supply chains to ensure that raw materials are being sourced in an ethical and sustainable manner. This could improve transparency in global trade and make it more difficult for companies to engage in unethical practices. Shift in trade dynamics. The ban could signal a shift in the global trade landscape, with countries increasingly prioritizing environmental and social considerations in their trade decisions. This could lead to a more sustainable and equitable global economy. In conclusion, Liberia's president's decision to ban the export of a key raw material to Europe has far-reaching implications for international trade and global markets. The ban could create opportunities for other countries, increase pressure for reforms, and lead to changes in trade regulations. It is a significant development that will continue to be debated and analyzed in the coming years. Key points. Liberia's president has issued a ban on the export of a key raw material to Europe, citing environmental, social, and economic concerns. The ban could have significant economic, environmental, and social implications for Liberia, Europe, and the global economy. The ban could lead to a loss of revenue, job losses, economic disruption, and potential for illegal exports in Liberia. The ban could lead to reduced deforestation, improved air quality, promote sustainable practices, reduced labor exploitation, improved human rights, and promote ethical sourcing in the raw materials supply chain. The ban could lead to disruptions in European supply chains, higher consumer prices, pressure on European alternatives, competition for new markets, pressure for reforms, renegotiation of trade agreements, call for stronger environmental and social standards, increased scrutiny of supply chains, and shift in trade dynamics. The decision by Liberia's president to ban the export of a key raw material to Europe is a significant development that has the potential to reshape the global trade landscape. The ban could have far-reaching implications for Liberia, Europe, and the world, with potential impacts on the environment, social justice, economic stability, and international relations. The ban is a bold move by the Liberian president, who is taking a stand against the harmful environmental and social practices associated with the raw material industry. The president is sending a message that Liberia is committed to sustainable development and ethical sourcing, and that it will not tolerate practices that harm the environment or exploit workers. The ban is also a challenge to European businesses and governments, who will need to find alternative sources of raw materials or develop more sustainable practices within the industry. The ban could also prompt other countries to adopt similar measures, leading to a broader movement towards responsible sourcing of raw materials. The potential economic impact of the ban is also significant. Liberia is a major exporter of raw materials, and the ban could lead to job losses and economic disruption in the country. However, the ban could also create opportunities for new businesses and industries to develop, and it could encourage Liberia to diversify its economy away from raw material exports. The ban is a complex issue with no easy answers. It is likely to be debated and analyzed for years to come. However, it is a decision that has the potential to make a positive difference in the world, and it is a decision that deserves our attention. The future of Liberia's raw material export ban to Europe is uncertain and could evolve in several different directions. Here are some possible scenarios. Scenario 1. Continued ban with increased pressure for reform. In this scenario, the Liberian government maintains the ban on raw material exports to Europe, and European companies and governments continue to face challenges in finding alternative sources or developing more sustainable practices. As a result, they increase pressure on Liberia to lift the ban or at least to make some concessions. This could lead to negotiations between the two sides, with Liberia potentially agreeing to phase out the ban or to implement stricter environmental and social standards for the raw material industry. Scenario 2. Partial repeal of ban with increased domestic processing. In this scenario, the Liberian government partially repeals the ban, allowing for limited exports of raw materials to Europe under stricter conditions. This could incentivize the development of domestic processing and manufacturing industries in Liberia, creating new jobs and diversifying the economy. However, it could also create loopholes that allow for illegal exports of raw materials to bypass the stricter regulations. Scenario 3. Comprehensive reform of raw material industry. In this scenario, the Liberian government takes a more comprehensive approach to reform, addressing not only the environmental and social concerns, but also the economic issues raised by the ban. This could involve investing in sustainable practices, improving labor conditions, and diversifying the economy away from raw material exports. If successful, this could lead to a mutually beneficial agreement between Liberia and European partners, allowing for the resumption of responsible raw material trade. Scenario 4. Global shift towards responsible sourcing. In this scenario, Liberia's ban catalyzes a broader movement towards responsible sourcing of raw materials around the world. European countries, under pressure from consumers and environmental groups, adopt stricter regulations and demand higher standards from their suppliers. This could lead to a ripple effect across the global supply chain, encouraging other countries to follow suit and promoting a more sustainable and ethical approach to raw material production. As the dust settles on Liberia's decision to ban the export of a key raw material to Europe, it's more important than ever to stay informed about this developing situation and its potential repercussions. This decision has far-reaching implications for Liberia, Europe, and the world. Stay informed about this developing situation and its potential repercussions for Liberia, Europe, and the global economy. Remember, we're all part of this journey together. Let's keep exploring, learning, and growing. Until next time, stay curious and keep spreading those positive vibes. Thanks for joining in. If you enjoyed this, don't forget to hit that like button, drop a comment, and hit subscribe to stay tuned for more exciting content coming your way.